Hello again, I'm Henry T. What a pleasure to be with you today, especially today. Man, I feel healthy. I know you do. Man, we treasure our health. We treasure the city we live in. Wow, what a place, huh? Albuquerque, New Mexico. What a country, the United States of America. Man, we're blessed. Opportunities to make choices. What do we want to do for a living? Gee, we got another choice. What part of the city do we want to live? What do we want to drive? What do we want to go to school? Gee, the freedom to do all of these things. And as sports fans, it's getting better. Man, all these activities, Lobo baseball opened up the other day. You can go there and watch the Lobos live in their renovated stadium and watch the Lobos play ball. 600 people watched. They enhanced,
I told you don't do that
they
again.
built the stadium to seat 3,000. And now in the near future, that'll look beautiful. It's a beautiful stadium. Little tiny press box, but a beautiful stadium. Artificial turf, great team, great coach, Ray Birmingham. Man, they've been winning like mad lately. And his dreams have always been to take his show to Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, he gets on and he is, man, very liberal in his, and not even careful. He gives out blackboard material like nobody else in the country. We're going to kick their behind. We're better than them. Oh, man, we're going to do this. We're going to go to Omaha. Nothing slows him down. The most optimistic coach maybe I've been around. Ray Birmingham, your coach, University of New Mexico, super guy, super confidence, and
So Ron
knows
is
the
on whenever
game.
you're ready.
Knows the game. Wow, I'm telling you. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have on a couple of superstars. You're going to love them. You know them both. First guest we're going to get ready for is Ron McIntyre. I was a kid when I first met Ron McIntyre. I lived over near Valley High School. I live on Candelaria Street, and there was a street called Arvia, and it was filled with athletes. I roamed those ditch banks over there in the North Valley, and I got to see these guys, a family, the Chavez family, Bobby, David, and Tommy. And then they were all great Viking athletes. Man, the Valley Vikings were blessed to have all three as starters in all the sports. But across the street, a little to the right, was a guy named Ron McIntyre. And his accomplishments were many. Maybe as you look back in time over our great city, Ron McIntyre might be the single most talented athlete that our city has ever seen, our high schools have ever seen. His parents made a way for him to attend St. Mary's High School. St. Mary's High School is no longer, but back in the day, oh my goodness, all the teams were good. And they had a legendary coach who was eventually inducted into the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. Babe Parenti. Ron McIntyre could play it all. He started every sport. He went from one sport to another and was all state. destined for greatness. Tall, athletic, fast, had a great arm. He could shoot the pill. He could play ball. He could play baseball, any position. And to this day, still talked about. And after Ronnie, we're going to get Hunter Greene on, former Lobo basketball star, and he's going to inform us on the latest activity regarding the Lobo basketball program. Who's going to be hired to replace Paul Weir? What kind of coach are we looking for? What are the recent names being dropped out there? And Hunter, he's on top of it all. Of course, Hunter, as you know, is a color commentator with the Lobo radio broadcast and does a remarkable job. Back in the day, well, he could play. Born and raised in Los Angeles, had desires and dreams to play for USC, UCLA, but Gary Colson went out to California and found him and brought him here, where he was a three-year starter and made the all-league first team. Great player, and certainly one of the top 20 players to ever play at UNM. As soon as my producer tells me that Ronnie is ready, we get Ronnie on the show here. But we got a lot for you today. Well, right now, let's go to the guy that I used to see working out at Valley High School, running the ditch banks. Read about him. Go to 7th Street Gym downtown and watch him play. What a player, what an athlete. And here he is today, a very successful businessman. Let's go live to Colorado Springs, where Ronnie lives now. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Ron McIntyre. Ron, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Henry, just great, Henry. How are you?
It's good to see you. We got to get that camera tilted because half your face is gone. Tilt that camera down, Ronnie, the other way. There we go.
Okay.
You got it. Man, still look youthful, still look like you can play. How are you, Ron?
Oh, I'm doing just great, Henry. Thank you for asking.
Boy, it seems like yesterday watching you work out, and you and the Chavez family, Bobby, Tommy, and David, your neighbors. The street Arvilla was filled with the best athletes in town. What was it about your street that was so impressive?
Well, I think a lot of it just had to do with the time that we all grew up in. You know, our games were all outside. Everybody was involved. Everybody used to play, and you know, it was just a lot of fun. And everybody, you know, participated in everything that they could. So I think that had a lot to do with it. There were probably a lot of neighborhoods that probably replicated the same as Arvilla was, but Arvilla did have some good athletes.
You're 50 yards from Valley High School. A ditch bank, a little bridge connected you to the parking lot of Valley High School. It was right there. You were always working out there, getting in shape, but you attended St. Mary's. Why not Valley High School back in the day?
Well, at that time, my first choice would have been Valley. I knew the coaches there from growing up and playing the Little League baseball. We didn't have Little League football back in those days, but my family had always attended St. Mary's. The McIntyre, my uncles, when Babe first started coaching, they coached McIntyres all the way through the time. I was the last one to play there. And it was just a known that that's where you went to high school. So I really didn't have a choice.
Well, I tell you what, Babe Parenti was happy with your presence because you were his star in every sport. Of course, Babe coached every team, and it was by automatic that you were going to be a star in football, basketball, and baseball, and academics because you were all league academics as well. You did well there. Why did you do so well at St. Mary's?
I think a lot of it had to do with the discipline that we got not only from the nuns but also from Babe. He taught, you know, a lot of things. Not to ever blame other people for your mistakes, to be responsible for your actions, to work hard. If you were going to want to achieve things, then you had to do things that other people were not willing to do. And I think the discipline, just you know, the repetition of doing over and over and over the things. I also think that what helped a lot was back in those days, you could participate more than one sport. Each sport had a season. And when one season was over, the next season started, there was no carryover. So, and of course, the agilities were different in each sport. So I think overall, you become a much better athlete if you could do more than just one thing. But I really would say discipline was the big key. And, you know, I was always taught if I was going to go on to college and do anything that, first of all, you had to have the grades. So that's probably why I hit the books.
Yeah, and automatically we knew that you were going to be a straight A student as well. I mean, I was a little kid. I hear all the great stories about you. I don't have a single note in front of me because I feel I know you so well because I always read your name in the paper and the neighborhood was always talking about Ron McIntyre. I eventually went to St. Teresa School, but your reputation, your story, your legacy was so thick and exciting. You were very popular in our city back in the day. And
Very gracious of you to say that.
well, you know it because your name was always in the newspaper. Headlines: McIntyre leads Cougars to victory. And you look at the leading scores and leading batting averages and everything. You were the man. And I prefaced this show and said, quite possibly, Ron McIntyre is one of the top athletes, if not the top athlete that ever participated in the high school ranks in the city of Albuquerque. I don't think that's reaching too far. You're a humble man, but you know you could have played at any team, any school in town. Is that accurate?
Uh, you know, I would think so, but you know, since I never had the chance to do it, I don't know. I grew up, you know, Albuquerque was a lot smaller at that time. We only had 5 schools, and I grew up with a lot of the people that I played against in sports, and growing up with them and playing against them, I probably could have played with any of them.
Now, I would think that a young man who went to St. Mary's all your years and excelled the way you did, and I would think because of the influence of Ray Giannini, one of your close friends, that you were destined for Notre Dame. Was Notre Dame ever in your mind to go play for the Fighting Irish?
Notre Dame was something that we grew up with in my family. I mean, it's one school that was always talked about. So I grew up, you know, always wanting to play for Notre Dame. But no, I never heard from them. I had a few scholarships. At that time, things were a little different. I had a scholarship that I took to Colorado, but back then the freshmen weren't eligible to play. You could only play against other freshmen. You had a 4-game schedule, and so what a lot of schools did were send you to a junior college, which that's what they did with me. Sent me to Fort Lewis, and you play 9 games there, and then at the end of the semester you transfer in to the big school for spring ball because now you become eligible. But you get a lot more experience by playing the 9 games and playing a lot of teams from all over the country. And so that's what I did. And then once I got to Colorado, it was so different from what I was used to as far as the population of the school. St. Mary's was small, Fort Lewis wasn't very big. Colorado was huge. My freshman year, the second semester, my psychology class had more students than either one of the schools that I attended. So it was huge and kind of lost sight of what I was supposed to be doing. So I didn't want to lose a scholarship, and I certainly didn't want to tell my parents that I was not doing that well in school because I was doing other things. So I joined the Marine Corps and spent 4 years in the Corps, spent some time in Vietnam. And when I got out, one of my coaches from Colorado was now coaching at New Mexico with the name of Bill Mott. And so I called him and he gave me a scholarship to go to New Mexico. And I did, but I ended up hurting my knee where I had put wires in it. They didn't have the technology for fixing knees back then that they do now. So I got my knee wired up, and that pretty much ended my career as far as collegiate sports.
Wow. But you're fun to talk about. You had so many friends in the city. And I remember even talking with the great Bobby Santiago about you, Ron. And he had the greatest admiration for you and what you did way back in the day. And you talk about the city being not as big, where you could have an associate, a friend at Albuquerque High, one of the great athletes of our time as well, the great Bobby Santiago. It was like a mutual admiration society. What do you remember about Bobby, the former Lobo great?
Bobby was just a competitor. Yeah, I was a couple of years younger than him. I played against him when I was a sophomore, and he was a senior. And he was incredibly gifted. He had great peripheral vision, which when he went on to play for the Lobos, I think because of his size and all, I think he might have been one of the best running backs ever to play there.
Oh, for sure.
Just a talent and such a humble guy, and he's so kind and nice and always encouraging and uplifting to people and athletes that were younger than him. He was always trying to, give you hope and encourage you to do better and do your best. And it was a real inspiration to me as I grew up.
You played with the one and only Babe Parenti. Thousands of great stories have been told about Babe, and they make you smile. He was tough. He'd give you tough love. He'd pat you on the back. He loved you forever. He treated everybody like their son. We've heard it all. He was later inducted into the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame and 7th Street Gym, Parenti Gym, if you will. When I was a kid, we'd play there on Saturday morning for recreation, the hardwood floor, the stage. It was not real long, but it had atmosphere. What do you remember about playing in the 7th Street Gym, Ron?
Well, it was always packed because it was small, but it was a lot of fun playing basketball there. Babe, when we talk about being tough, I'll tell you one story about Babe that probably few people would ever experience. When I was a junior, we got our first grass practice field. All we ever practiced on was dirt. And the other schools all had grass. And so in my junior year, Parenti Field was built, which is where we played our games. But we also had a practice field that was built up on the hill, and it was grass, but we never saw it. We still practiced on the dirt, and Fridays before the game, we would get to run without pads on the game field, so we could get our timing, I suppose. But our practices still remained on the dirt up on the hill. And same thing with baseball. We still played on dirt. So Babe didn't see the advantages of grass. He thought it'd make us soft. Dirt made you tough. And, in basketball, our practices in that gym were he was hard. He made you run a lot. You had a lot of discipline involved. But what he used to do with a person like myself who played more than just basketball, if you played football, he'd keep you after practice. And then he would have us doing fumble drills. We'd roll the ball on the court and have us diving on him as fumble recovery. Uh, Babe never stopped thinking about making you a better player, making you a tough player. Our school was small. We played the big schools back then. We didn't have the classifications that they do today. So we played the Highlands, the Albuquerque Highs, all the big schools. And to compete, we had to be tough. And so that's what Babe did. He made sure that you were. Our drills were, we didn't use dummies. We didn't even know what dummies were. We were the dummies. We we would stand there when people were getting technical drills and tackling or something like this. You just stand there, a guy would run in, tackle you or block you. And that's how we learned our techniques. So yeah, he was tough. And because my whole family had played for him, as far as my uncles and my father, when you went there, you knew what you were going to be getting into. So Babe was a unique individual. And like you said, he coached everything.
How tough was he? What was his personality?
Today, I would say he could have been a great Marine drill instructor, because his toughness, before I got there, when my brother was there, my brother was 6 years older than I, but when he played for Babe, they didn't have any bars on the helmets yet. And so he still had an open face helmet. And Babe at some time would still suit up himself and go out there and practice. His body language was just, he had so much presence. When he talked, you just listened and you did what he said.
Later on in life, after your competition,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
legacy is the way that you went to the youth and became a leader of young kids, became a young America football coach, you became a youth basketball leader, little league coach, and your trophy case is filled with trophies, and you champion that cause like few people ever have in this city. And people look at you and say, yeah, he was a great athlete, boy, but he was a great leader of young kids later on. What a compliment about you.
Yes, that's again very gracious of you to say. I got involved with YAFL in Albuquerque, Young American Football League, in 1970. I believe it started in 1968. And it was the first time that youth could, young kids could play tackle football. So a fellow by the name of Cedro Ruby, who also was an ex-St. Mary's player, he played for New Mexico on baseball scholarship. Cedro was about 4 years older than I, and he was coaching. He was one of the founders of YAFL. And in 1970, he asked me if I'd like to coach with him. So I did, and we got involved I coached with him for several years, and it was a lot of fun. The whole idea of coaching youth was to teach them discipline, teach them how to respect and your competition. The one thing that you want kids on good teams to do, we had great teams. We did win quite a few championships. And one of the things that you want a child to learn is that to respect your competition, because you might be better than they are. You might even beat them by a high score, but without them, you have no game. And they are out there trying to do their best as well as you are. And so I think the great athletes learn to respect their competition, whether it's in boxing or, MMA, whatever it might be. You have to. And so, and it carries on to business. And I think one of the things about at this stage in life with youth football and youth basketball and sports overlap, they carry over from one season to another season. So it's difficult for a young person to participate more than one thing. So they pretty much specialize at a young age. And so if they are going to be taught that way, and you've got to go to youth camps now, you've got to do all these kinds of things, because when colleges scout you, they don't scout you so much at the high school you're playing. Everything goes through Prep Zone, or one of the leagues that keep tap of high schools players and keep charts, and they get them ready to give the recruiters from college. And, that's pretty much how they get scouted. So there's just so many, and because it starts at such a young age, there's probably, so many players that don't even get noticed because they're not at the prime schools, the Prep Zone or whatever, so they get overlooked. So what you try to do is work with them so they can have an enjoyable experience while they're young. They may never get past high school. And you want to really enjoy what they're doing, but also you want them to learn about life. You want them to learn how to compete. You want them to learn how to have, the discipline, to be organized, to be unselfish, to learn how to be a team, because it carries on to your life when you're in your business career. There's not any difference with a business than there is with a sport. A successful business pretty much has the same things going on. It's just called different, you have different positions to play, but the training is still the same. So I just think that working with youth was a lot of fun. And I was one of the first coaches that we started football in Rio Rancho. And so we had, didn't have any teams up there. So we started football there, and I coached there for about 12 years, and a lot of successful teams there. And it's just fun to work with young kids.
Well, now you're near retirement, knowing you're so athletic still to this day and so youthful, but you've become a businessman and very successful in Colorado. Give us a little bit of that before we let you run.
Well, my business is I'm in venture capital, and we work with new technologies. I have a kind of a different approach than most people in venture capital. We try to work with technologies going to be going offshore into developing countries, and so I have the opportunity to work with some agencies that structure these things, like the World Bank and the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, USA, people like that, and SID, which is comprised of universities. And so when they're looking for, real cutting edge to take offshore into projects, that's those we go and we try to do the technology transfers for that. In Sandia Labs is also another good area where I work. And what happens is that you get these products up there in development, whether it be in energy, it could be, water purification, it could be housing, a lot of different things. And this new technology has an opportunity to be exposed. And so you have a place for it to go, so that when the project is completed, it's a product now that can go, worldwide. It could be put in the market, and oftentimes you can get it done with IPOs. So it's a very interesting business. We meet lots of people, very great people all over the world, and work with them. And it's just a lot of fun to watch. It's like a Yafo sport. You watch a young company grow, and you work with them and try to get them successful, and everybody is benefited from that. So it's a very interesting career.
Well, as we look back, you're a great star in our memories, Ron McIntyre, and still talked about to this day. And if you were to answer the question, what is Ron McIntyre's legacy in his great life, what would you tell us?
That's a very good question. I guess to predict one's own legacy would always be difficult, because, as you see yourself, as others see you, might not always be the same. But I would like to be thought of as somebody that cared and helped with people to develop their inner self, so that they could be great achievers, so they could do the things that could benefit people all around. And, I think that if your attitude is to benefit as many people as you can, and many times maybe they have better benefits from what you did than what you got yourself. But if you can have that kind of an attitude, then I think it just helps to make the world easier to live in, because, the world is full of great people. We have problems. We have, it's just part of life. But I think you have to look at each thing as it comes before you and deal with it at that point and see what you can do to help to make it better.
Well, as soon as my producer tells me that Hunter Greene is ready, we'll go to Hunter, and he's going to join us to talk about the latest occurrences in the search for a new basketball coach at UNM. And I was curious because you were always a Lobo fan as well. I've seen you at many a Lobo game in the past. Do you still watch and keep track of the New Mexico Lobos, Ronnie?
Absolutely. Because of technology today, the way it is, I also keep track of all the high schools and the things that are going on there, because you got all kinds of ways to watch them now with this technology. But New Mexico is always dear. I mean, even though I live in Colorado now, the Lobos team we grew up with, and was always great to watch people come and play there when I was growing up, go to their games, and I had the ability, at least for a short time, to play there myself before I got hurt. But the Lobos, just part of my life.
Ronnie, what a pleasure to talk to you today. And we'll get you on again. But man, the opportunity came to talk to the legendary Ron McIntyre. I had to jump at it. So a sincere, great big thank you to you for being on the HenryT Show today.
Well, thank you. It's my honor, and I really appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. As you know, I've always liked you, always looked up to you, and as far as being one of the greats, as far as sports school, you're right there.
Thank you, Ron. Take care. We'll run 100-yard dash against each other someday.
There you go. we could get our cousin Moses involved.
Amen. Ron McIntyre, ladies and gentlemen. We'll leave Ron to go to Hunter Greene, former basketball great at UNM. Oh my goodness, still has, we call him the thief, because he still has those records. He still has a record for most steals in a season and in a game. Great player. Today he's great on the radio as a Lobo color commentator. And right now he joins us to talk about the recent hiring that's going to take place, the hiring, because now we need a replacement for Paul Weir, because he's reached a mutual agreement with the athletic director at UNM to part ways. So he's no longer the Lobo coach after this season. Let's go to Hunter right now and bring him on. Youthful, good guy, and always helping HenryT. Hunter Greene, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Henry. Did you get your workout in this morning?
Man, I even pole vaulted this morning.
Right out of bed, right?
I remember that line used to tell me, because are you a champ or a chump?
Oh yeah, chump or a champ? Are you? What are you? Are you a chump or a champ? That's
and
it.
I would make you feel guilty because you were still crashing, but you have the radio on in the background. And as soon as I say that, you say, "I'm up, man. I'm a champ."
That's it. That's it, Henry.
6:30 in the morning.
There you go.
Hunter, this is a difficult time again for Lobo fans. We've been doing this way too often. We've had too many coaches in succession here not get it done like athletic directors and the fan support wanted. Capsulize for us what has taken place here.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, Paul Ware, his time has come. He's been here 4 years. He was given a great opportunity with not a lot of experience as a head coach. And, being one of ours, a New Mexican, he'd been living here for 10 years or so down in Las Cruces. So, he was given an opportunity. Unfortunately, it just hadn't worked out for him. He's a good guy. I thought, he represented the university well and had the players, interests at heart in terms of, the players first and their health and well-being. And so here we are, number 21. Now we're going looking for number 22, right? Our 22nd coach. What does that coach look like? Who is that kind of coach? I mean, and I think our athletic director, Eddie Nunez, has kind of painted a picture of what he'd like to see. I mean, there's a lot of boxes that need to be checked in terms of what he's looking for. I think at the end of the day, it's somebody who, number one, can represent the university with the utmost integrity. And then, of course, you've got to be able to do both things. You've got to be able to nurture kids, develop kids, and then you've got to be able to win basketball games. And that's really, I think, to really simplify it, that's really what we need here.
Now, the landscape of college basketball. You know the landscape of great coaches across the country. And in your walks of life presently, you get to meet those head coaches and their assistant coaches.
That's right.
It's also going to put the pressure on you and say, give me a handful of prospects that could be considered in Hunter Greene's coaching mind. And would your consideration include a former Lobo great named Michael Cooper?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think for me, if you're asking me and I'm making the decision, I first look on the list. I create a list of people that have ties to the university, whether they've played for the university, they've coached here, they're familiar with it, they were born here. So there's a list there that you start with, and you kind of work out. That's kind of the core list, and you kind of work out from there. Because when you mention the names of Michael Cooper, Kelly Graves, Cody Toppert, I mean, guys that are in the coaching game that have ties to New Mexico, I think that's important. I mean, I always feel like, when I'm down there and I don't see a former Lobo on the bench, working as an assistant or working part of the program, that bothers me because I think, those people have already paid their dues. They've been a part of the program. They should be afforded the opportunity to at least have, a place in the program, whether it's a coach, administrator, what have you. I mean, it's been so much turnover here that we just haven't been able to keep our own. And there's a lot of talented people that could really add value to our program. So in our search for a coach, why not start with our own? Why not look at athletes that have played here, coaches that have coached here, coaches that have been born and raised here, right? I mean, they still have family ties here. So that's where I would start with my list. And then I kind of work outwards from there.
That's a good list. And I really like the name Kelly Graves. One of the top is girls basketball program at Oregon is number 1 in the nation.
That's right.
Has really learned his craft as a coach.
Yes.
When it really comes down to it, to differentiate between women's game and men's game, could he make the transition to be the leader of men at UNM?
I think that no question, that would be the same question that would be asked of Michael Cooper because he had success at that level in both the WNBA and then, of course, he's coached Division I women's basketball at USC. So that question would be asked of Michael Cooper as well. And I think, yes, I think they can. I mean, the game itself, it's for men, it's a much faster pace game, more physical game than for the women, but the game itself is the same. I mean, The court's the same length, the same width, the free throw line's the same distance. I mean, so, the concepts of basketball, the fundamentals of basketball are really the same. So if you can lead women and you can coach women, I think you can lead and coach men. So yeah, no question that to me, that gives you experience in the game of basketball in terms of coaching and being a leader.
And Coop and Kelly have both coached women very successfully.
Yes, that's right.
They were great players, college players as well. And of course, Cooper, not only college, but the pros as well. And
Yep.
then in the G League, he's won everywhere.
Mhm.
And when I hear talk about, well, he doesn't have a degree yet, he's got a doctorate or several doctorates in the game of basketball.
Right.
Share his knowledge of what he knows about his arena, basketball. Is that comparable to having a degree or knowing a subject matter as well as you can know it? Plus, all he's had is winning experience.
Yeah. No, there's no question. You cannot compare a degree to practical experience. I mean, Coop has practical experience. He's got life experience. He understands what it takes as a player and as a coach to win on the basketball court. So I would say Coop is qualified, no question. If you say a degree is an issue, okay, let him sit side by side with his student athletes and get his degree. I mean, he can do that.
In your opinion, would Coop bring great athletes to the University of New Mexico?
Oh, he would have to be successful. We would have to
Does he have the capability of attracting them?
So I would say Coop, because of his name, he would have the opportunity to get into those living rooms of some of those young kids. He would have to have top shelf recruiters with him because he can't do it himself. I mean, he just needs to put together a strong enough team to be successful, whether it's recruiting, X and O's, situational basketball. He would hire those people so that he would be successful. So yeah, no question, he'd be able to recruit.
And I think the public would really like to experiment. And that's a tough word when you think Coop is an experiment.
Well, it's tough because here's the deal. Every 3 or 4 or 5 years, when we turn over a coach, the number one name that pops up is Coop. Okay. He hasn't been given an opportunity for whatever reason. And usually it's a decision made by an athletic director who was here for a short period of time. He's not been here very long. So now we have an athletic director who's been here, I think, 3 years, Eddie Nunez, and he's just taking in the history and the culture and understanding New Mexico a little bit in terms of the type of people we have here. And New Mexico is not for everybody. And New Mexico is a place where, it's just a certain type of person that wants to be here. And I think that's important. Just like Paul Ware wanted to be here. In fact, he may still make this his home. I mean, so that's important, I think, to me. I think it should be important to our fan base. Of course, winning is what everybody wants. And so, like Paul Ware was given a chance and he's got multiple degrees. Coop should be given a chance. And I think that would be part of the plan is that, it'd be contingent on him continuing his education, working towards his degree, side by side with his student athletes.
Coop, we would go to 15,000 fans. If we line them all up, we'll put them in their seats in the pit. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We as a crowd are going to select the next coach at UNM. Here is your ballot. 15,000 ballots passed out. And here are the names. I have a feeling in my heart that at the end of the vote, Cooper would win the vote.
No question. I mean, the popularity vote, no question. Coop. I mean, I think just not only population, just on his body of work. You say, what has Coop done since he's left the University of New Mexico? Very impressive. Very impressive. I mean, he's got a resume, so that shouldn't be an issue. I mean, so again, it's not my decision, but I think I would start with those guys like Cooper, like Cody Topper, like Kelly Graves, like Larry Shyatt. I mean, guys that have been in the game, have been here, knows what it takes to win here, and want to be here, not just for the paycheck, but just want to be here. So that's important.
Let me throw the name at you. Coach Larry Shyatt, who
Yeah.
was hired at Clemson. He did fairly well there. Went to the University of Wyoming twice and rebuilt that program twice. He was an assistant to Gary Colson here, and we know you played for Coach Colson.
Right.
He has won 25 games your senior year. That's success. I wouldn't mind seeing Shyatt come back.
That's right.
Rebuild the program. I don't know how long it's going to take, but with experience like him, the experience of Coop, people like that, it shouldn't take very long.
No, I mean, that, again, those are the names that I would begin with. I would start with them and work my way out, because that's important. And they have the experience. It's just a matter of what Eddie Nunez is looking for and what he wants, because it's his job that's on the line, right? Ultimately.
Amen. Before we let you go, what literally is the situation objectively? And I don't want you to discredit another friend of yours, Paul Weir. I'm just asking you to lay out what's in front of us now. What's happened this year? How devastated is Lobo men's basketball at present?
Well, I think Coach Ware and his staff were really in a reset mode. They were rebuilding the program. He had probably 8 freshmen and transfers on the team. So unfortunately with COVID, it was just very difficult. The time he needed to be on the court, the kids, and then also just being in front of the fans and being in the pit. I mean, a lot of these kids signed up to play in the pit, to play for Coach Ware in the pit. That didn't happen. So some of that has been the issue. But I think more importantly, it's kind of, Coach Ware's been in his 4th year, and you sitting here, you asking yourself, well, what's the vision? Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? And that's kind of what I think a lot of people are asking themselves. There's no question he's a stand-up guy, represents the university first class. But at the end of the day, it's about winning games, right? And unfortunately, I think he was probably close to 500, maybe, as a coach here, just under 500. So, Henry, you there?
Fan, when they get objective about Paul Weir, some were bothered about his body language, his posture, his too cool, calm, laid back.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunate that people would judge him based on that. I mean, the red sweater never bothered me. Bobby Knight wore a red sweater. It doesn't bother me. I mean, if he's winning games, the red sweater it's like this most awesome thing. Everybody wants to buy one or something. You know what I mean? It's just, that doesn't bother me. I mean, his body language on the bench doesn't bother me. I think at the end of the day, it's results and his ability to communicate with the kids and to the community, the vision. And so those things never bothered me, because there's been great coaches like John Wooden who wore a sweater. I mean, who cares? That doesn't bother me. And so, but so people get caught up with the body language, the antics and that sort of thing. I just, that doesn't make a good basketball coach.
Well, you were a very intense player, and people love intensity when they see any sport, but especially fans in the pit. They want to see a Hunter Greene, a Rob Robbins dive for that loose ball, go into the stands, show hustle, show that intensity, tenacity as a defensive player like you did. Is that missing presently in the program? a Hunter Greene intensity?
You know, I think that's a personal thing. I mean, certain players play with a lot of emotions, and some players don't. But I think at the end of the day, it's the coaching and how you coach, a sense of urgency, a sense of what's important, whether it's on the defensive end, closing out, diving for the balls, deflecting balls, as Coach Weir would say. I think that's all style of how the coach is coaching and what his expectations are. But then there's personal style. I mean, some people are quiet leaders, like Malawatch. He's not very vocal. He plays with a lot of passion. You know, but then there's guys who are more vocal than him in the past. So I just think that's a personal style, and it's, again, it's like wearing a red sweater. Who cares? I think at the end of the day, you know, if the fans see the effort, and from the effort they see results, or they see the potential of results, that's fair. That's a fair. That's fair for the fans to expect that.
As we come to the end of our interview, as you see it, what do you project for our environment, for Eddie Nunez and his staff, fans? What's going to happen, and how long will it take to happen?
Well, first of all, I think whoever's hired, it doesn't matter that it's a big splash, right? That it's a big name, or I think what's important is the fan base rallying behind that coach, supporting that coach in his efforts to rebuild this, because it's going to take 12, 24, 36 months because of where we are right now. So it's not an easy fix. So we need, as a community that rallies around Lobo basketball, supports Lobo basketball. And when we need athletes, student athletes that are going to be involved in the community, I mean, they need to be out and talking to, you know, the fan base, so that we get to know them and understand who they are, so that we buy in as fans and support them.
What presently, last question, Hunt, what's the reputation throughout the country amongst coaches, athletic directors, just basketball crave fans? Where do we stand right now? We got a great arena, and it used to have 18,000 seats, and now it has 14. We don't have the record we used to have, not even the attendance for that matter. Countrywide, what is the reputation right now of Lobo men's basketball, in your opinion?
Lobo men's basketball historically was a very, very passionate arena with passionate fans. Since probably over the last 7-8 years, or since Alfred left, we haven't been. I mean, we're pretty much known as, we're stuck in a time capsule. We've got an old facility that's had some lipstick put on it with these mezzanine, or the what do you call it, the boxes, right? The suites, luxury suites. And that's not us. That's not our community. That's not who we are. We're a passionate fan base that, you know, if you make it affordable, we'll show out and we'll support it. But it's got to be affordable. And that's one of the things that's kind of passed us by. Financially, we haven't been able to keep up with all the competition in the Division I basketball, in terms of facilities, in terms of just, you know, things that afford a program to be successful. And that's where we are. So we need to step our game up there. We need to bring the passion back in the pit. Forget about the suites. We need the passion back in the pit. We need fans in the seats, you know, young kids like Aaron, right?
Amen.
Your kid growing up, being a fan, watching, you know, Lobo basketball, tracking it, understanding it. You know, where's Hunter Greene from? Where's Kelvin Scarborough? Where are these guys from? How tall are they? You know, can I meet them someday? I mean, that needs to be brought back into the pit, because that's what Lobo basketball is all about. It's not about, you know, big corporations sitting in suites. We appreciate their sponsorship, and we need it badly, but we really need those affordable seats. We need to be able to bring people from all parts of the state to say, you know what, if it's only one time I get to go to a game in the pit, let me be able to afford it, right? Let it happen. And it's a catch-22 because I understand it's a business and supply and demand. But I think what we have is passion, and passionate people that just want to have a fun time and win some basketball games.
Is it going to happen, Coop? Can it happen again? I was thinking, Hunter, is it going to happen again?
Yeah, it could. It's here. It's still here. Times have changed. Kids have so many access to so many other things. We just need to get them back interested in. I mean, just like United Soccer is. United Soccer is a family event. Whether they win or lose, the Lobo fans are there and they're passionate and they're with their families and they're enjoying the experience. We need to bring that experience back in the pit. The experience.
Hunter Greene, ladies and gentlemen.
Henry T. Thanks, man.
I
Appreciate you. Love you, man. Thank you for everything you do for New Mexico athletics and the kids in New Mexico.
God bless you, Hunt. Great to talk to you. Thanks for doing my show again.
Henry T, no problem.
Take care.
All right, man.
Great man, Hunter Greene. I got Coop on the mind. I just have that feeling he should be strongly considered. Does he have a degree? Does he have a degree? He's got a doctorate degree, several doctorate degrees in basketball. Here in life, called on to learn something extremely well and do something with it. Coop has certainly done that, knowing and learning and playing and executing at winning in basketball to a level that few people have ever experienced. I say make him a major candidate once and for all. Michael Cooper, can you imagine the winning, the atmosphere, his spirit, his defense? Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today on the Henry T Show. We say thank you to our sponsors. We say thank you to Alden and our producer, Jimmy Tran, ProView Networks. Thank you to everybody that has a little bit or a lot to do with the Henry T Show. Have a great day, and you watch. That Lobos scene's going to happen just like you want it, and we'll all be back in the pit again. Woo, roaring like we used to. Have a great day. I'm Henry T. See ya on Wednesday. Take care.